Do you want up, Bay? Come on. Hi. Okay, I know, kisses, yeah. Hey everyone, Monique Renee here, and Bailey. I'm the pet and people photographer here with Silver Paw Studio, and welcome to a new segment called Storytime. This is my chance to tell you my tales with tales. I thought you might be a little interested in what's motivated me down this journey that I'm on. What do you think, Bay? I've got my favorite Pai Chai, and my little dog Bay here, who's really hoping to get some. For this very first Storytime episode, I want to talk about my most frequently asked question. And I get this whenever I'm doing an interview, I'm giving a presentation, I'm on a podcast, any of those kind of things. This seems to be my number one question, and it probably is for you too if you're a pet photographer. My number one question is, what is the strangest animal you've ever photographed? All right, so strange, unusual, weird, give it whatever name you want, but pretty much the most unusual animal I've ever photographed: pets. Now, we're not talking about wild animals here, just like potential pets, right? Obviously, over the years, I've photographed hundreds, well, thousands at this point of dogs and cats, especially with the amount of work I've done with the shelters. Are you done, Bay? Okay, bye. Okay. So obviously I've photographed a lot of dogs and cats. I've photographed a handful of horses even. But what are some other very unusual animals I've had a chance to photograph? Now Bailey's playing with her toy down here. The squeaking is Bailey playing with her toy. So most of my strange, unusual, exotic animal photography has come from my shelter and rescue work or just personal projects. I'm going to tell you the strangest animal to me ever at the very end, so stick around. Here's a few of the stories. I live in Colorado and there's a lot of rural areas, and so the county rescue is able to take in what they call anything smaller than a goat. So they have all kinds of farm type animals there, and when I spent a year photographing at the county shelter every week, I got to photograph all kinds of animals. I never got to photograph a goat, unfortunately. At that shelter, I was able to do a pig, lots of different ducks and chickens and roosters. That was pretty cool. And they also have a whole portion that is for small, like pocket pets and exotics. And I've actually adopted quite a few animals from them, from fish to my little birds. And so I was able to photograph all of them too, which is really difficult. You've got these tiny birds in this cage with all the bars, or a fish in a fish tank, or turtles in a tank. How in the world do you photograph all of those? But it was a great challenge for me. So think of anything along those lines, in little cages, mice and birds, all kinds of different birds. Now, a couple of times I did special projects for them, and we wanted to photograph a variety of animals for a project they were working on once. And we set up the whole studio in one of the rooms, and they brought in a ferret. Oh my gosh, I've been around ferrets, but they're so fast. And picture a little ferret on this. I put up a huge backdrop in this room. Luckily the door was closed, and I'm laying all the way on this concrete floor, and the ferret's like boom, 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 boom. It was so fast, so fast. Other really cool animals I've had a chance to photograph, or strange, you might call them strange or unusual, I think they're really cool, is the Northern Colorado Herpetological Society here. I know the people who run that, and every once in a while I'll message Kate and say, Let's do some photos of whoever you have. I just want to be challenged. And it's so fun to go to the NoCo Herp Society, and they have turtles and bearded dragons, and they had an iguana at one point. Oh my gosh. And I want to tell you, bearded dragons are adorable and they're so easy to photograph. You just set them up on something kind of warm and they'll just stay there. She has fashioned tiny, tiny hats that we just carefully set on top of their head, and they wore little hats. Oh my gosh, the best. One of my favorite pictures I've ever taken was of a guinea pig. And this guinea pig, I had a little white toy piano, and I set the guinea pig on top of it. And this was in my little studio space at my house. And we had 2 lights going, but one didn't fire. And so I have this one very dramatic light of this guinea pig on top of this toy piano, just ready to belt out Sinatra or something. I just love that photo. It's so, so fun. Some other unusual animals is about 4 years ago, I went to the Animal Behavior Center, which is Laura Joseph runs that. She used to have a big animal conference there every year, especially for animal behaviorists. She trains all kinds of different animals and does a lot of work with the local zoo. I went there and I was able to photograph her pig Milo, her roller pigeon. Back when Periscope started, we formed the Pet Lovers Tribe. Therese Copawoda, who's been on this channel as my web designer, and I and 2 other people, including Laura Joseph, formed the Petscope TV back in the day, and the Pet Lovers Tribe, hashtag Pet Lovers Tribe. And we were the board members. So all 4 board members were at this event 4 years ago. She has all kinds of other animals too. And then my very last little tale of unusual animals, I'm sure I've forgotten some here in this video, was when I was on this walkabout trip a few years ago, and I was in the Pacific Northwest. I looked up the local shelter and I messaged them. I said, listen, I'm in town for a few weeks. Is it possible that I come by and help you out? We could do some photography of whatever adoptable animals you have. And they're like, sure, come on down. And so I went down. I had traveled across the country with all my gear, of course, like my studio table set up, everything. Like I had one little bag of clothes and all of my camera gear on this trip. I'll tell you about that in a later tale. But I went down to the shelter there in Port Angeles, Washington. They had primarily dogs and cats, which we photographed, but they also had some others. At the time, they'd had a big intake of pet bunnies. And so we photographed a bunch of bunnies, and we got some carrots out of the fridge and arranged them, and it was great fun. This particular shelter in this little tiny town in upper left Washington had the most unusual animal I have ever photographed. And they warned me ahead of time. They said, okay, now these animals were surrendered to us by someone who really didn't know how to handle them. And then it kind of got out of control. He surrendered them to us, and they were in this huge, like closet-sized setup. It was really a great setup. And I never interacted with this particular animal before, ever, but I'd heard about them. I said, okay, well, if you have a handler that's comfortable taking him out of the cage, we'll just try to do somewhere like the blanket is wrapped around the hand and they're holding on to him. We won't put him on the studio table, anything like that. And they said, okay, we'll give it a try. We have one person here that always does all of their cage cleaning and feeding and any care that they need. So we'll try to get her in on the day that you're here. I said, okay, that'd be great. So we got everything in there. I set up all my equipment. We closed the door and like warned people, don't come in. I need tea. And then I got a look. And these are the cutest little things ever. But after this whole buildup, I had no idea what to expect. And so we go in there and we open up the kennel, and there are 2 chinchillas. And I looked it up. They really are the softest animal in the world. And these ones are fairly feral, I guess is what you'd call it. You know, they were nice to each other and they were fine, but they really didn't know how to be handled, and they're Okay, I thought ferrets were fast. Chinchillas are fast. I was so shocked. And they're so small. They're like this small and with a super long tail and these big eyes and little ears. And you don't want to like hold them wrong, of course, but you don't want them to get away and like jump onto the ground and run around the room or anything. Oh my gosh. So this technician that was helping me, she was awesome. We got them in like some plain colored little blankets and she held them and I was able to get some close-up pictures of these chinchillas. We thought we might be able to put them on the table, but there is no way. They were so fast and so wild at that point. It wasn't gonna happen. I pet them though, and they really are the softest ever. So chinchillas are the strangest, most unusual pet I have ever photographed. And that is my most asked question. And I hope you have enjoyed this new segment, Story Time. It's going to be a limited segment. I have a few tales I want to tell you, a little bit of my background, funny things that I've done with pets and photography and my journey. I have quite a few more coming up. These will release on the weekends, so you can just be like me, snuggle up with your dog and your blanket and your chai tea and just enjoy them. And then we can get back to work on Mondays, right? Well, this has been a fun little story time and walk down memory lane. I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, be sure to paw that subscribe button and ring the little bell. At that, I'm gonna go, and as always, I wish you many woofs, purrs, and TREATS's. Let me say bye, bae. All right. Good girl. Good girl. Bye.